back, guys, to Raising Real Estate Standards. Last week, we talked a little bit about the mid-year review and kind of what we were seeing in the market and from our perspective. But I wanted to bring in Carley. Carley's been with us before. Carley's my lovely wife. And she is a real estate agent here in the Triad, and I wanted to bring her in to get her perspective on kind of how this year has gone so far, and then maybe what she sees coming up. So, Carley, how is your market right now?
Yeah. Well, in general, I'm on track to have a really good year. I'm tracking quite a bit ahead of last year. So that's great. In general, when we look at listings, I'm seeing a little more days on the market. I'm seeing we're having to make a few more repairs than we typically would have in the recent past. And it's really important to have them priced properly and in really good shape. The properties that really are move-in ready, that don't need a lot of work, those are still moving really quickly and potentially having multiple offers. You might not have 10 offers like we did back in 2021, but you might have 2 or 3, which is really fantastic. And then the ones that need a lot of work or priced really high, they're sitting and reducing. So we see a little bit of both there. With buyers, I'm finding there's some built up demand as far as they're ready to buy. You know, I have some buyers that have been waiting. A good mix of different types of buyers, from first-time home buyers to buyers that I've helped maybe move 5 or 6 times, look for the right property. But buyers also are being a little more picky. They really are waiting for what they want again versus back maybe in 2021, something like that, where they took what they could get type thing. So
talk about, like you mentioned, the first-time home buyers. So, you know, we went through this craze where it was really hard for a first-time home buyer to get into a house. How are they navigating this market now, and how is it a little bit easier for them?
Yeah. So you are not having to put in maybe 20 offers to try to get a house now. So there's a little more inventory. The hard part of prices have continued to increase, so that makes it a little more difficult. But I'm seeing the average age of the first-time home buyer increasing, so that helps people that are really getting more of a down payment. They're really making sure they're financially stable to be able to purchase their first home, and really being cognizant about the choices that they're making. We might go and drive and see maybe 2 or 3 properties at a time, whereas in the past, you would either maybe look at one, and even past that, sometimes we would look at 10 houses at one time, before the market went really crazy. So we're kind of in really an in-between piece where we might look at several of them. And I'm also seeing those first-time home buyers being more flexible in location. And that's really where they can get a house that is more move-in ready, more in their budget price point, and that they're not having to worry too much about a lot of repairs later. So the more flexible they are in location, driving-wise, then they are able to get more house in a better condition.
Right. What about the move-up buyers? You mentioned those as well. I mean, it seemed like for a while it's like, hey, I don't want to move up right now because I've got this fantastic interest rate right now, and I don't want to have to trade that in for something else. Are you seeing movement from there?
Yeah, so it's really, there's some people that have been waiting on the sidelines for that, and they're finally making that move, or really waiting on that right property to come along, versus maybe something that had, a good decent amount of what they wanted. Now they're really waiting for the majority of what they want. A lot of those buyers are still purchasing first and then turning around and selling after. So they usually are particularly, in a stronger position to be able to do that, which is really nice. And then, or others have some other type of thing where they really need more space, or they really want to get out of an HOA, or whatever it might be, or some different things that are really triggering them to make that move.
Like life happens, and therefore life is more important than the interest rate.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
Exactly.
Gotcha. Well, so you're also listing property now, listing a good bit. Tell us how, kind of like what you're doing from a pricing standpoint, because before, I'm not going to say you could pretty much put anything on the market for anything and it would sell, but it wasn't far away from that.
Right.
So you guys are having to really strategically price things now. Tell us about kind of what you're doing there and what you've seen in some of your listings lately.
Yeah. I kind of mentioned this a little briefly before. One is really getting a property ready for the market. That makes a huge difference, because if the house is move-in ready and in good condition, people are willing to pay a little bit more. They're more likely to sell faster, those type things. So painting, putting new flooring in, little touch-ups, decluttering, all those things really, really help in this situation. So I'm really focusing on that. And then from there, once we focus in on the pricing. And then from there, we're not necessarily trying to push giant limits. We're really trying to be close in general to what market value would be. So we're looking at what's currently active, what is closed recently, and then what's pending, and what is all that looking like in that general market. So it's, obviously very specific in zip code, neighborhoods, those type things. But looking at that in general, we're not, I would say most people are not way over pricing things to get it to move. Now you occasionally run into a seller that really wants to push a particular price point and try, and if it doesn't work, or occasionally you might want to try something a little higher because it has a very unique feature or something that somebody might really want. And if it doesn't work, then you're definitely seeing some price reductions.
So I know we've run into this with a couple of agents here, with property sitting on the market a little bit longer than normal. Do you think that's a pricing issue from that standpoint, or is there something else that's kind of like you think that's kind of holding them back?
It depends.
Okay.
It depends. Ultimately, everything comes down to price. So if that seller really needs to move it fast, then a price is a really good way to do that. It could be that it's in really bad shape. It could be, multiple different things. Maybe the house is only a 3-bedroom and everything else in the neighborhood is a 4 or 5-bedroom, and that makes it more difficult, or whatever, smaller, larger, whatever. There's multiple different reasons, but ultimately everything does end up coming down to price, and it's really just more your seller's motivation as to how quickly you move that price.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So let's talk about moving that price for a second, because one of the things that agents are just having the hardest time with right now is the dreaded price reduction. So kind of walk us through that, like something you've done recently, maybe kind of a dialogue that you have with a seller to kind of get them to understand and go along with it, because nobody wants to drop their price.
Right. Well, I tried my best to set expectations up front. So it was like, okay, if we're going to try this price, I really think it should be priced around X, but if we're going to try X, Y, Y, then let's do it, but let's keep an eye on it. Let's monitor it. Let's see how many showings we're having. I mean, usually just a general rule of thumb, again, it depends on every property, but if you've had 12 to 15 showings with no offers, something's wrong. Usually at that point, you should be able to get an offer within those amount of showings, especially now when people are really being a little bit more particular about which houses they go see, that kind of thing. So if you've had about that many, then you should have an offer. So that's usually one piece that we talk about up front. Hey, we've had this many showings, or if we've been on the market 3 weeks and we really haven't had any showings, let's relook at this. Then I'm going to pull market stats. I'm going to go further out than just maybe the tiny neighborhood. Let's look at the whole zip code or the neighborhood or the school district, and let's see what's happening there. How many properties are on the market? Are you competing with a bunch of new construction? Are you, all those type things, and, really have that information ready for when you do go to look at doing a price reduction, have some sort of support for that, instead of just saying, I feel like we need to reduce it.
Right.
We need a little bit more than a feeling.
Right.
So.
Evidence always helps.
Yes.
Whenever you can share that. So switch gears a little bit, talk a little bit about lead generation. What are you seeing working out there currently with your lead generation? And kind of what do you do specifically? I know what you do, but the listeners out there may not. And then what's working now better than may have before?
Yeah, so my main focus is on my past clients, my database, those type things. So I really first try to do a really good job servicing them, so they would rely on me for any kind of real estate needs to come back to. So they felt like they had really, really good service. So that helps to start with, but then keeping in contact with them, doing client parties, doing reaching out to them, touching base, those type things. Because a lot of my business does come from repeat clients and referrals, as well as part of a coaching network and really making connection with other agents across the country, because there's a lot of agent-to-agent referrals happening now, because I think people got a little bit burned out, maybe going cold lead. I've, maybe during that busy, crazy time and did not get great service, or I've had people that started there and were not happy and then went and asked for a referral and got to me that way. So really trying to, having that expertise, showcasing that, and then a lot, me in particular have my background in design, so I can really focus on getting the property ready and, pricing it right with a lot of my, again, background on strategic pricing specialists and some other things like that.
Gotcha. So I don't think I heard you say anything about social media. And as many people as we've had come in here, many people we've talked to, it seems like social media is a big thing. Social media is a big push, but I don't think social media is a big part of your game. And I think as much as you want it to be, I think sometimes, but it's not a huge part. And I think the point I'm trying to make is it's not everything.
Yeah.
It's not everything. And I think agents out there, if you're spinning your wheels on the social media game, maybe take a step back and go, there's other things that I like to do and I enjoy doing. So
yeah. Well, I mean, sometimes that takes time to see what you enjoy, what fits with you. As I matured as an agent, there were things, I'm like, okay, this doesn't work for me. Why am I doing this? I don't like it. I don't like spending time doing on that. And let me really focus on where I do shine and what I am good at. So that's what I do. So yeah, I am not a big social media. I mean, you could go check mine out and you'll see. I mean, I post and I have things, but I will not, it's more to support my network already than it is getting a lot of new business. I probably could up that game and get more business that way. But I am personally, pretty content for the most part where that is and, where my business is, I am. So it's not something that I have to do. And I think it is a good piece for a lot of folks to incorporate that. But yeah, it's definitely not my main focus.
Yeah. So are you seeing or let me back up. What are you seeing as market challenges out there right now, whether it be for you, whether it be for buyers, whether it be for sellers, that is just kind of tripping people up?
Yeah. Well, there's a variety of things, and it kind of depends on the day.
Right.
If you ask me right now, I've had a few appraisal issues, which is, that kind of cycles through. It's just been, and I would say they're more random than it is a consistent piece. Again, doing repairs are probably a bigger thing that's become more and more of an issue, whether it be for an appraisal or through the negotiations with buyers, as not as many buyers as there were, and then sellers still having somewhat of the expectations of 2 years ago or 3 years ago, what that looked like, kind of getting through some of those. It's just really I really try to do a good job of preparing everyone what to expect. So that helps get through those hurdles.
So you've mentioned like here and then in pricing, expectations of buyer versus seller, and sometimes they don't meet. What are some things you say to them sometimes? I know you mentioned bringing evidence on the pricing, but other things like let's talk about inspections and whatnot or repairs. What are some things that you do to keep this deal together?
Right. So every situation is different, and it depends on, the information I have. It's all part of the negotiation as to, how, where the deal is. Like, let's not let's not get emotional. I mean, that's a big thing, is really trying to keep emotions out of it and trying to focus on what the issue is. Okay, do we want to lose this deal over a $200 repair? Probably not. But maybe we can come to some other conclusion. Maybe we can split it. Maybe we can do money versus doing the repair. And, you know, chatting with the other agent and just trying to get information to where it can be, you know, a win-win for both parties on that aspect. And where nobody can really get stuck in the sand. You know, so many times I am also coaching sometimes the other agent because they kind of get stuck and don't know where to go. So trying to help them on like, hey, what can we do to keep the conversation going? Like, let's not stop this. And, you know, you want this to happen. The buyer wants this to happen. The seller wants this to happen. So let's really see if we can find that piece that will bring it together.
So I'm going to put you on the spot here. The agent on the other side. Is there one thing specifically that may show up a lot that you wish the agent on the other side paid more attention to, or did or didn't do?
I don't know if there's one thing in particular. I think it really, well, I guess maybe, yeah. I guess it's the setting of the expectations. You know, so I feel like so many deals fall through because the other agent on the other side didn't set the expectation up front. So, you know, when you're going as a buyer's agent and we go in to have this inspection, especially with my first-time home buyers and sellers, first-time sellers, I'm like, listen, this inspection report is going to be long. It's going to be 50 or 60 pages long. It's going to look like your house is falling apart. It's not, I promise. Most likely. But we're going to, you know, this is why I encourage them to come to the home inspections if you're a buyer, because then the inspector can then give them some more information, give them more of an opinion versus what they're going to see on the sheet. That's going to be all this information that they are required to put in there. That sounds a whole lot scarier than maybe what it is. And because that's usually a lot of where that comes in is in that, inspection period there. And then also what to expect sellers to do as far as repairs. So, you know, I go in explaining to my buyers, you know, sellers are not required to do any repairs. So you need to be prepared if something comes back to either move forward or lose your due diligence money. Now we're going to ask, and what most sellers are reasonable. And if it is a large item that they're going to have to do for somebody else, let's say it has termites or it has, you know, high radon or something like that, most sellers are willing to, you know, help with that. But just know this is something that they can come back with. They can come back and say no completely. But we're going to, you know, try and go like that. So setting them up for them to come back with no. So when they do come back with no, It's not the end of the world. They were prepared for that. And, you know, I still fight for trying to get them some things done, but it's not a complete, oh my gosh, I can't believe they're not doing anything. This is crazy. And I get the question a lot, you know, the home has to pass inspection. There's no such thing as pass inspection. You know, it gets inspected and then issues are going to come up. Every single house, even brand new houses, have multiple issues that come up. So it's not that it's not going to quote unquote pass inspection. We're just going to be focusing on these larger items that really are issues with the home. But we're not going to focus on the sticking door or a, you know, squeaky window or whatever it might be type thing.
Right, and that is if you take nothing away from this conversation, I think this is probably the biggest piece of wisdom along the way is setting the expectation. Setting the expectation is going to keep the deal together, and that with deals falling through, you know, like they do from time to time, this is one way to make sure you keep the deal together. So, like Carley says, that's probably the biggest nugget you can get out of this. Well, Carley, so we've talked about like how it's been for you, but I'm gonna wave a magic wand in the air, and no, we're not going to hold you to any of these predictions.
Yeah.
However, what do you see coming in the second half of the year?
I think it will continue to go well. I see that. I mean, typically right now we are in the lull of summer, so I don't expect giant moves to happen right now. I do feel like fall is a good time. That's when it usually picks back up a little bit. Just kind of our general ebb and flow. You know, we do still have more inventory on the market, but I think buyers are, you know, they're coming around. They're coming out. We've seen that last year. We've seen it some this year. that it's going to continue in general our market to increase. Values will continue to go up, a little more steadily type thing, not any giant waves. Of course, we've all heard of all the news, especially in our area, of jobs coming in, lots, big companies that are bringing folks here. And we have a lot of folks that are coming to be with family. That's probably the largest. This is probably number one mover of folks, is to be closer to family. Either selling their home to move somewhere else or to move here to be close to family. We're still a very affordable area, so folks really like that. So it brings the folks in. So I think we'll continue to have a decent year.
Growth. Yeah, sounds good. You left some really good wisdom, especially with the setting expectations, and everything else you left was good wisdom as well. But is there anything else you would like to share with the audience out there that you would like to just, because our audience, some of them are been in the business for a while, some of them are brand new. Some of them are spinning their wheels. They don't know really kind of where to go. What's the final Carley nugget that you want to leave?
I would say hold strong, keep at it, keep working. If you don't feel, like you're getting support, or, find a good mentor, find someone that has been around for a while to, have that to speak to, and to, hang in there if they aren't, seeing the business come around, and really stick to the things to get business. And happy to help if anybody wants to reach out and ask any questions, or happy to do that as well.
If anybody wants Carley's information, we can leave them in the show notes. She'd love to talk, and she's on here from time to time as well on the podcast. And if you want to see her more, let us know, and we could definitely make that happen. But until then, you heard the nugget from her: hold strong, hang in there. So let's do that. We'll see you next week.